All right. Let's talk about SummerSlam.
We watched WWE SummerSlam 2022. Would have been July 30th, 2022. Big, long... I take that back. By their standards, a very, very short music video package, none of the matches, but I did laugh at the line in the song that promised top shelf smiles for top shelf faces. I'm not even sure that was in the song or the announcer said that, but whatever. And then it occurred to me, we're reviewing here SummerSlam 2022, just after reviewing SummerSlam 1993, and I had like a dozen jokes about Brock Lesnar taking a bus to the show, and he one-upped me by bringing a damn tractor to the show. So
yeah, he did. Hey, you know, I was Craig Texas during the show, and he was trying to get out of watching SummerSlam.
That's
he wanted to.
No.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it was.
That's exactly. We both got the text. You said you didn't want to watch SummerSlam.
Yeah, I didn't.
Am I wrong?
Never mind, Brian.
My point is, you're trying to get out of watching the show, and I said, Craid, the show's good. And he said, I'll believe it when I see it.
I got the text right here.
Well,
word for goddamn word.
But that's not even the point. The point of this is, I sent him that message that the show was good at about the halfway mark.
Yeah.
And at the halfway mark, I was right.
Right.
By the end of the show, fuck me. Dude, it was like watching two different pay-per-views. Because the first half of this show, it was like the wrestling was good. We went right to a match. We didn't have a big-ass long video package for Becky Lynch and Bianca. It was like, boom, then we had a bunch of women debut and come back to the company. And then, you know, everything was going along great. And then at about the halfway mark, it just totally morphed into an old-school WWE pay-per-view with fucking insufferably long matches. And, like, these video packages just were never ending. And Roman Reigns, who normally walks to the ring slowly, now he's walking to the fucking ring slowly in a goddamn stadium. Takes him 15 fucking minutes to get to the ring. And the show ended at 8:40 again. And, you know, I had some people going, well, it's SummerSlam, I don't mind the show going long. What are you talking about? Dude, if you add up all of the time of the matches, you could have got this same show done in 3 hours and it would have been miles better. You did not need an hour of fucking filler and videos. And yes, I know some of these are commercials for the people that, you know, pay the $4.99 tier. You're going to get commercials. And those of us that pay $9.99, we get some video packs for Bobby Lashley instead. I understand that. I'm talking in addition to that. The video packages for all of the matches we've already seen 1,000 times. Bro, how many Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns video packages do I need to see? I've seen that video package now going on 8 times. I've seen that video package for 8 fucking pay-per-views. I don't need to see it again when the show is going past the 3-hour mark.
My point in the text was, Brian, we used to watch Modern Day Raw, and you said, and I quote, I reviewed that show with Dave. It's ridiculous for us to review it again the next night with Brian, Vinny, and Craig. So it's redundant. So I just floated the idea about maybe we should do the Flair pay-per-view that was tonight and skip SummerSlam. Yes, I didn't really want to watch SummerSlam.
That was my point. My point was you didn't want to watch it, and I talked you into it. But then as it turned out, I was only right for half of the show.
That's By the way, WWE in a stadium looks really, really cool.
Oh, no doubt. That was my very first note. They had this thing in a football stadium, and it's open air and blue skies. It's a special environment. It looks really cool. And I got a bunch of pictures of people who were there like, oh, but they tarped off half the stadium. Who cares?
Yeah.
It looks cool on TV. If you're there, you're looking at half an empty stadium, I guess I'm sorry for you. But I really don't care. It looks cool on TV.
Yeah, listen, obviously, I make fun of Glenn for coming out and saying that the show drew 48,000 people because he inflated it by 10,000 fucking people, which is even funnier because on the pre-show, everybody in the company said there were 38,000 people there, and then Glenn comes out and lies. So that's funny, but I mean, I'm not making fun of them for drawing 38,000 people. That's a great crowd, and it looked great. And yes, if you're there live, you'll see a bunch of empty seats in a giant stadium, but they filmed it so you couldn't see those empty seats. Although, you know who did suffer watching this show live?
The guys behind the ring when it was still
Fuck me. I didn't even think about that till afterwards. But that ring got lifted up, and so there were a whole bunch of people that bought ringside seats in a stadium. Yep. You know how much that would have cost?
$1,000.
And they watched underneath a ring for a good
20 minutes.
20 minutes of the match. Yeah.
Maybe Hornswoggle kept them entertained.
I think they should have put a video screen underneath that ring.
Maybe so.
For all those people that couldn't see a fucking thing. All right, let's get going.
Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair. It had a very, very fun match. Becky Lynch appeared to suffer an injury, but she's awesome.
I do believe she separated her shoulder.
Yeah.
And I knew immediately because I separated my shoulder twice. And both times it was from falling on my side. And she took that jaded and she landed on her side. And I thought, fuck, that's not a good way to land. And she immediately grabbed the shoulder. And they had, there were some pictures fans took from when the match was over. She was helped to the back and they were looking at her shoulder, the doctor and everything. So my thought is there are like 3 grades of shoulder separations, like grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Grade 3 is like, what Ibushi got where he still can't lift weights and it's been months and months and months. Grade 1 sucks, but she can probably still work. So hopefully it was just like the grade 1 or whatever and she'll be fine. But it was, and she finished the match, so it couldn't have been that bad. But that sucked.
She finished the match. Go ahead, Craig.
I just figured it out when she was selling the right instead of the left. That was dead giveaway.
But she finished the match and was still throwing suplexes and manhandle slams at the top, or trying them anyway, and taking bumps for everything. So I'm sure it sucked to get through, but she's awesome. She got through it. It was not, their last match, I guess, went 30 seconds or whatever, but there was some sloppiness. There was some really wacky grappling and scrambling for position, but when they were just doing pro wrestling, it was really good. Becky used a diamond dust at one point, and perhaps the commentary highlight of the show, they actually called it diamond dust. So Becky pulls her off the top by the ponytail, hits the manhandle slam for 2, tries another one off the top rope, but Bianca turns into a Spanish fly. And then she hits the KOD, and then a crazy thing happened. The babyface got the great win in their hometown. And they stood triumphant and tall. It wasn't a fluke, and they weren't beat up afterwards. Like, holy crap, Vince is gone. It was amazing.
Well, let's be fair here. And I don't want to say I told everybody this, but people were bitching about Bianca all through the winter. And I said that it's very obvious what's going on here. Bianca got beaten in 26 seconds or whatever at SummerSlam. She's going to have a bunch of obstacles. She's going to end up winning the Royal Rumble. And then she's going to go on and she's going to win the title at WrestleMania. And everyone said, I'll believe it when I see it. They never do anything right. And that's exactly what they did. And seeing as how this was a year anniversary of SummerSlam, she was facing Becky again. The only obvious thing was that she would get her clean win. And she did. Because I know people make fun of WWE, but they don't always do the wrong thing. Sometimes they actually have a good story. And whatever you want to say about some other stuff, they've done a great job with Bianca and the build to this match. And thank fucking God they've turned Becky Lynch babyface again.
It's a very, very good match. I was very impressed with it. I'm always bewildered at the athleticism of Bianca Belair. She is a superstar.
She rules.
Yeah.
She rules. Afterwards, a lot of news. First of all, Becky, with her left hand, because her right hand is, right shoulder separated, she shakes Bianca's hand and starts to leave. But then Bayley makes her big return. And then Dakota Kai makes her big return. And then the newly named Io Sky makes her big return. And they're staring down Bianca. It appears it's going to be a 3-on-1 beatdown. Becky goes to stand by Bianca's side, and the newly formed heel faction backs off. And there you go. That was also awesome. Great wrestlers returning. More exciting matchups. This is all good news. And they didn't overdo it with a big giant brawl out of the gate. So there you go.
I thought it funny that they called her Io Shirai and then quickly changed it to Sky. And
well, actually, this is exactly what they used to do in NXT, where somebody would debut and they would put their indie name on the screen, but then they would come out and immediately be given a brand new name. So on the screen, it did say Io Shirai.
Okay.
Yes,
but then as soon as she came out, Corey kept calling her Io Sky, which everybody figured was a fuck up because she was the queen of the sky or whatever. But that is actually her new name is Io Sky. And, of course, on Twitter now, everyone's up in arms. Dave's an idiot, blah, blah, blah. Bro, let me tell you something. Dakota Kai got fired, and AEW did not sign her up, and Triple H came back, and he immediately re-signed her. Io Shirai did in fact have one foot out the door, and Hunter came back and immediately called her up to the main roster, and so now here she is on the main roster. That doesn't mean that any of the it's not like Dakota Kai wasn't actually fired, or all of this happened, and now Hunter is here, and now things have changed, and there are going to be a lot of other things that have changed, including Max Dupree being back on SmackDown. Wade Keller was not wrong about that. Vince removed Max Dupree, and then Vince got removed, and then Hunter immediately gave Max Dupree his role back on SmackDown. So there's going to be other people that have left and will be returning under Hunter, and this was the beginning of that.
Miz versus Logan Paul. So a simple question.
Miracle of a match.
A simple question. Has anyone ever looked so good in their first 2 matches as Logan Paul?
Well, every time someone looks as good as Logan Paul, everybody always says that. We heard that about Bad Bunny. We heard that about Hook. We heard that about
McAfee.
Who else? Pat McAfee. We heard that about Shaq. I mean, there have been a lot of people that have had very impressive first and second matches, but Logan Paul is definitely up there.
Yeah, he blew me away. He looks great. He carries himself great. He's obviously plainly a phenomenal athlete. But he has a natural timing to this kind of thing to do something cool and then wait so it sinks in rather than trying to rush through the next step that 99% of people getting into wrestling struggle with out of the gate. He's a natural at this, as natural as anyone I can remember seeing in forever and ever and ever. So it is The Miz. We've said a lot about Miz. He hits his draping code breaker for the Heat and immediately puts on a chin lock. And I forget which announcer it was, but the announcer screams at me, "Beautiful chin lock applied!" Like, okay, first of all, it's not even a very good chin lock. Second of all, don't scream at me about a chin lock. That's not necessary. Logan makes his big comeback. It's a blockbuster. It's a figure 4. Ciampa is ejected for not interfering, but he refuses to leave, so AJ Styles comes through the crowd to attack him. And
that spot was so ridiculous. It's like the referee ejects him. He's like, "I'm not leaving." He goes against a chair and he just sits down, and the ref's like, He's all angry. I'm like, well, what? Do your fucking job. Like, call for a DQ or something like that. The ref is going to let him stay.
I guess.
But AJ came out and made the save.
And Logan pays tribute to AJ. He hit his own phenomenal forearm. He lays Miz across the announce desk as a big giant frog splash off the post of the desk. Maurice takes the referee. Miz tries to attack Logan Paul with a foreign object. I see a lot of foreign objects in wrestling. On the show, for example, we saw a tractor, but you usually see the steel chair or the kendo stick or the brass knuckles. Miz grabbed a Polaroid photograph.
Right.
And apparently, I guess he was going to use the edge of it to perhaps slice Paul open.
Yes, paper cut.
I'm not sure what plan.
Photo paper cut.
I'm not sure what plan he had, but Paul dodged and hit Miz with his own skull-crushing finale. I am not exaggerating when I say that Logan Paul pinning The Miz got a bigger pop than Bianca Belair pinning Becky Lynch in her hometown. People love this guy, and it's Logan Paul, for God's sake. And there you go. This could not have gone any better.
I wonder if maybe Miz had a little bit of extra motivation because... And it wasn't just me. It was pretty much everybody. It was quite obvious at WrestleMania that Logan Paul was working rings around The Miz. And, if I don't put a lot of stock into social media, but I certainly believe that if I had a match with somebody who had one match in their life, actually at that time, 0 matches, in their first ever match, and people were talking about how this person was working rings around me, I'd fucking step it up in that next match. And he did. He did a good job in this match, and Logan Paul did a good job. And, as good as Logan did, I could not watch this match and say that he worked rings around Miz this time.
Not this time,
He was certainly more athletic, and he did more athletic spots and cool things and that sort of thing. But work-wise, I thought that Miz did a good job, was a very perfect... I shouldn't say very... I guess I could say very good. For what it was a very good singles match. And they got into Logan Paul. They actually cheered him at the end. So... that is an accomplishment because it seemed impossible.
The great thing about Logan Paul, it wasn't just his high spots. Like, his high spots look fantastic. His dive to the outside and that incredible frog splash onto the announce table. But just as we've said many times, the music in between the notes, this guy, he gets it.
He gets it.
He gets it, and he's really good.
He gets it. He looks like a star. He has a great physique. He's clearly athletic. He carries himself like he knows he's a star. Nothing but positive things to say about Logan Paul.
Yeah.
We get a maximum male model segment. It's I'm going to pronounce their names wrong. It's Mansoor and Mace.
Mansoor and Mace.
Thank you. That is much cooler that way. That's undoubtedly.
Yes, thank you.
But they're doing a lot of posing, and it's summer. We've all been struggling through a heat wave lately. I forget which one of them says it first, but you can't help but say, "Man, all this modeling is making me thirsty." And they're handed pure life water, and they plug it vociferously, and then begin to drink it, and then douse themselves with it, while sharing wisdom such as drinking water supports healthy hydration. They're not wrong. Mm-hmm. And eventually, the Maxine and Max Dupree join in to announce that Pure Life Water is the official water of Maximum Male Models. I thought this was great.
It's funny.
This is awesome.
Hey, listen, there probably aren't a lot of people happier than me that Vince is out, but this is a total Vince gimmick. This is the kind of shit only Vince McMahon would come up with.
Sure.
It's fucking awesome. And I'm happy that he's gone, and they're actually going even more hardcore with it. Because before, it was like goofy and everything like that. I mean, it was definitely supposed to be over the top and goofy. But now it's like goofy to a new level. They're fucking pouring water, and it's just like the most blatant. It's fucking amazing. And these two guys, Mansoor, good worker, and he was a great babyface. Massey never really did anything of value, but fuck, they are both multitudes better with this fucking gimmick right here. I don't know if they can do anything as a team. I don't even know what they're going to do as a team, but I can be entertained. I can be titillated for a few minutes every week watching this shit, so I was a fan.
And that's pretty much the end. That's like the point where the show kind of turns south. Theory versus Bobby Lashley.
Oh, I was fine with this.
Yeah, that's
4-minute squash beating Theory,
well,
no issues.
Fine, fair point. Theory comes out and one of the announcers says, Theory feels undefeated with that briefcase. Now, I'll acknowledge, he did say that Theory feels undefeated. He never said Theory was undefeated. But I'd like to point out that counting this match here against Lashley, Theory is now 0-12. Suspending this briefcase. He's literally lost every match, including twice on Raw last week.
Yeah.
So, no, he does not feel undefeated. Also, this is not necessarily these guys' fault, but... Okay, so if you are having a match with a guy and you hit him with a weapon, it's a disqualification.
Correct.
But if the match hasn't started yet and you hit him with a weapon and the other guy just says, I don't care, it's not a disqualification. There's no punishment. There's no repercussions. The message this sends is, if you let your opponent get into the ring without hitting him with any weapon you have available, you're dumb.
Yep.
So,
well, to be fair, technically they have to ask the opponent if they want to do the match.
They asked Lashley if he was okay, and Lashley said, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But that's still dumb. They shouldn't ask Lashley.
What they should do is
say, fuck you, Theory, you're disqualified, no match, go home, you're not paying.
Well, I mean, the other guy's welcome to say, no, I'm not okay, I'm not doing this fucking match, and I'm keeping my title, and then Theory's fucked.
That's true. It was also a title match.
Yes.
Which later, during the match, Theory, the challenger, tried to walk out of the title match. Lashley, the champion, had to drag him back.
Yeah.
And eventually, Theory tried his rolling drop kick. Lashley pressed him over his head and dropped him into the Hurt Locker, which was cool looking. And he tapped him out immediately. It was boring and illogical, but it was at least short.
On Monday, when he lost twice, he got tapped out to the Hurt Lock. And the moment Lashley put the Hurt Lock on, he just furiously taps. And the announcers explained, well, he doesn't want to get hurt before the pay-per-view, which is a great point. Here, it was pretty much the exact same thing. He gets put in the Hurt Lock, he immediately taps, but nobody bothered to mention, I don't think, maybe they did, I didn't hear it, that, he wants to come out and cash in later on tonight, so he's saving himself. He was stuck. Why fight it? Just tap and get out of there and don't get hurt. Yeah. But they really didn't do that this time like they did on Raw. They didn't hammer that home, unless I missed it. But 4 minutes, 44 seconds. The only offense Theory got was when he attacked him before the match. Lashley just beat the shit out of him the entire time. And I was actually mildly irritated by the end of this show because I didn't want Austin Theory to cash in and become the champion. But you know how much time they've devoted to this fucking guy on TV for the last month? Like 45 minutes. I'm not even exaggerating. Between promos and matches and angles and second matches, he's been on TV like 40 minutes on SmackDown and on Raw because they pretty much dropped the brand split. All of that leading to SummerSlam, where he gets beat in 4 minutes, and then later he tries to cash in, but doesn't.
And gets beat in 4 seconds. In that one, yeah.
There was nothing wrong with this match. It was like Brian said, it was a quick squash. The finish looked cool. Theory rolled inside. He was going for his cutter, and Bobby picked him up out of pretty much midair, press slammed him, and then dropped him into his move. The finish was awesome.
Los Mysterios versus Finn Balor and Damian Priest. So this is weird.
You don't say.
I mean, if you're just watching the match, it's like this is a perfectly fine, run-of-the-mill formula tag match. But
except,
a couple of excepts.
It was a no DQ match, and they both stood politely on the apron.
Yeah.
And there were Rhea Ripley's at ringside. She politely stood there and didn't interfere.
Yeah.
But it was no DQ.
They used a chair a couple of times, but otherwise, until the very end, nobody broke any rules or came close to getting disqualified.
You ever seen those stand-up for WWE blokes?
Sure.
Seen those guys?
Sure.
I try to avoid them, but yeah.
They're like, you know, Brian, you have to make a tag or you're not legal, even if it's no DQ.
No.
And in fact, that is correct, but there's a problem here. There's a problem. The men were in trouble and crawling for a hot tag.
Yes.
As the announcers are alerting us, he needs to make this tag.
Yeah, why?
And I'm like, no, he doesn't. Fucking Dominic can jump in right now if he wants to and beat the shit out of the guy that's beating on Ray. Granted, he's not legal, but he can save his father and then go to the ring and get tagged. I fucking hate no DQ matches where they stand on the ring and fucking hold that tag rope. And that was most of this match.
And maybe that's why, for the entire time, there was like no heat for anything they did. Like one part where they teased a double 619 and didn't deliver. The crowd was into that. But they didn't care about Ray. They didn't care about Dominic. They didn't care about Finn. They didn't care about Damian. They didn't care about Rhea. This was 4 people in what felt like an empty stadium doing a wrestling match.
Well, the other thing, too, is you know that most of those fans are probably thinking the same thing we are. They're not fucking dumb. They announced it's a no DQ match, and they're standing there waiting for tags. So first off, the fans are probably wondering why these fucking dummies are standing on the apron. And then, if it's billed as a no DQ match, you know that the finish is not going to come during the heat in a tag match that's no DQ. You know that bullshit's going to go down because it's a no DQ match. So everyone just sits and waits for the bullshit, watching these idiots stand on the apron. This didn't make any sense.
No.
So eventually, Edge makes his return. So on paper, Edge is coming back to screw the men who turned on him and cost them a big match on the big show here in the biggest party of the summer, whatever. What actually happens is like fire goes off and music plays and Edge rises out of a platform. The whole thing is very much a revamped Brood entrance.
Yep.
And then it takes a long time to get down to that ring. And eventually, Damian Priest is tired of waiting, goes to meet him halfway, gets his ass kicked. And Edge spears them both, and Ray pins Finn with a 619 and a splash. The whole thing was all about Edge. This is Edge's match, and he did nothing until the last 2 minutes.
You know, it's funny, a couple of things. So I was watching it last night, and Edge runs down to the ring. He gets in the ring. He does some spots, and he's cut his hair. Mm-hmm. And he no longer looks like Doc from Back to the Future. He now looks, this is what I thought last night, he looks and moves like DDP. So then, today, I'm watching Ric Flair's last match pay-per-view, and you'll never guess who's there.
Diamond Dallas Page.
DDP. This fucking guy's 66 years old, and he jumps a rail, and he gets in the ring, and he does a couple of spots in a diamond cutter. He looked fucking great. So, for those of you and I was not paid for this. For those of you who are wondering if you should try DDP yoga, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, the other thing I thought was, you know why Edge was no longer part of his own group, right? Because they wanted to go in the spooky direction, the supernatural.
Sure.
And he was like, fuck that, I'm not doing that. And so they said, all right, fine. And they removed him from the group. And since that moment, they haven't done one supernatural thing with that fucking group. Not one! Now, the good news is Edge is way better as a babyface than that last heel run that he had, so I'm actually happy that he got out of there. But it is funny that he left because he didn't want them to do stupid shit. And then after he left, they actually never did stupid shit. So that was weird.
Pat McAfee versus Happy Corbin. I'm not going to lie. I spent the bulk of this match going downstairs to get pizza. So I can confirm that when I come back for the last 3 minutes, I saw Pat McAfee almost die trying a superplex. I saw Pat McAfee almost die doing a senton. I saw Pat McAfee almost break his leg doing a flip in the ring. And then there was a ref bump and a punt to the balls, and Pat McAfee hit a very ugly code red, and he won.
See, I'm a big fan of Pat McAfee, but this was not Pat McAfee's best match. And here's the thing, and this is going to be for Pat McAfee, and this is also going to be for Logan Paul. And it's going to be for all of the other celebrities, if Bad Bunny comes back or whoever. The thing is, when you've never had a match, and you go in there and you put on a good performance for someone who's never had a match, everyone's like blown away. You do a second one. It's only your second match ever. And it's a very, very good match. Everybody's blown away. By the third or fourth time, now, if you have an average match, people aren't blown away anymore. They're like, that was a very average match that old Pat McAfee had right there. The point is, you only have so many times where people are very impressed, where they're grading you on that curve. Pat McAfee can really no longer be graded on that curve. And really, it's going to be the same thing with Logan Paul. When he has 2 or 3 more matches, he's going to end up being, looked at the same way as everybody else. And if you look at Pat McAfee, like any other WWE wrestler on the show, he did not have a good night. The match was fine. I actually thought overall it ended up being a pretty good match. But there was sloppiness there. And, there were moments where he looked green. And it certainly was, of all of his matches, except for the one with Vince McMahon, it was the worst one. But it still wasn't like a bad match. But he's going to be looked at differently by fans from here on out.
Yeah, I have to agree. It wasn't bad by any stretch, but he was in there with Corbin, and Corbin's slow and plodding, and it was fine. It was passable.
Drew McIntyre comes out to cut a promo to plug the Clash of the Castle. I'm going to start over.
Try that again, Vinny.
Drew McIntyre comes out and cuts a promo to plug the Clash at the Castle show. And most interesting thing here is that McIntyre, of course, is from Scotland, which, like Wales, is also part of the United Kingdom. But they never say this show is in Wales. They say it's in Cardiff. And they're pushing him as the true hometown hero there, which makes sense, but it's still wacky.
That moved to Nashville, by the way.
Yeah, he lives in Nashville now, yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of Nashville, I'm glad you brought that up. This show was, of course, in
Well,
Nashville,
before you
Tennessee.
get to that, I want to mention that this was a big deal that they did here, where he came out, he cut a promo, they put him in the aisle. So the way they shot it, I mean, he looked like a big-time superstar. You could see most of the 38,000 people there when he was talking, and they're super into him, and they did a big firework display when he was done talking. And I watched this, and I thought, this fucking guy should beat Roman Reigns at that show. It'll be a big hometown show. It would be a great win. He never got a fair first run, because his entire first run was during the empty arena era. And it all built to him finally winning the title in front of the fans at WrestleMania, and he didn't win. And I think that it would be an awesome win. I think that if they really want to go with Rock and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, the titles shouldn't be on the line. You don't need the titles on the line. It's the fucking Rock and Roman Reigns. So you can have someone else be the champion, whether it's Drew McIntyre or he loses to somebody or whatever. But I would have him beat Roman at that show. I don't have a lot of faith in that happening, but I would.
All right, so we are in Nashville, Tennessee, home of the Tennessee Titans. out come the Titans cheerleaders, and they're playing the Titans theme song, and they're singing and dancing, and they split, and there's the Street Profits in Titans-themed gear, and this crowd goes crazy, and they're super over, and they love these Street Profits, and they want these guys to win really, really bad. And they're facing the Usos for the tag team titles. And Nashville's own, or Tennessee's own, Jeff Jarrett is there to be the special referee. And they start doing this match. It's really not much. It is 2 minutes in before we go to our first 2-minute chin lock. Eventually, there are the high spots, but I've seen these guys wrestle a bunch of times. It's the same high spots they've always done. The exact same double teams, the exact same super kicks, the exact same splashes. There's one point where one of the Usos almost accidentally kicks Jeff, but he catches the boot, and you actually see it in his mind. The wheels are turning because he has caught 1,000 boots in his life and done a drop kick or whatever. But he just spins the guy around, and Dawkins hits a spine buster. So Montez Ford does his giant monster top rope splash where it looks like he's jumping off the top of a cage, even though he's just off the top rope. And they do a super close near fall of it, and suddenly Montez Ford starts bitching at Jarrett like an asshole, when all Jeff did was stop counting when the guy kicked out.
How dare you?
Didn't make any sense. Michael Cole, babyface play-by-play announcer, points out this doesn't make any sense. He doesn't understand. There's a bunch more super kicks and the 1D, and the Usos get the clean win.
You know what's really weird is you guys don't watch Raw and SmackDown.
No.
But about a couple, 3-4 weeks ago on SmackDown, they were being interviewed, and the announcer said something like, there's rumors that you two haven't been getting along. And they blew it off, and then, they just went to the next segment or whatever. And I was like, what the fuck was that? What, rumors that you guys aren't getting along? What? So, we talk about it on the shows, like, that was weird. Why did the announcer say there were rumors that you guys weren't getting along? There's never been any storyline about that. Are they going to break these guys up? So then, like a week later, they do an interview, and they start talking about how, there are rumors that are going to break up, and they blame the rumors on the dirt sheets. I'm like, wait, what? You mean the dirt sheets that brought it up because they talked about it on TV first? And I don't know if this is true, but, I heard that, they were upset that the dirt sheets were reporting that they were going to break up. And I was like, I got that from fucking TV. I got that from an angle. So now they do this match, and Montez, let's be fair, he was a dick. He hit his move.
Yeah.
100%.
The referee counted to 2. The guy obviously kicked out. Montez starts fucking yelling at the guy. I can't remember what he said. It was something like, this is my town, it's Nashville. Or he said something that was dickish. Just like, I just almost knocked the fucking microphone off the thing. And then, Jarrett's like, I just counted. And so, then they get pinned. And so now I'm really thinking they're going to break up. So now are they going to get mad at the dirt sheets again because of a fucking angle on television that any idiot would watch and think they're going to break up? Because that's what this is. They have to be breaking up, right?
I would imagine.
The only two logical conclusions of this, because they've had a bunch of title shots and they keep losing, they lost the last one of the big show, there is only 2 ways you go from here. They split up or they turn heel, both of which seem ridiculously stupid to me.
Right.
People love them so much. There's no reason to split them up right now.
You know what's funny, too, about that? When they came down to the ring for their entrance, I'm watching this entrance, and I'm like, holy shit, look at these two fuckers. They gotta be winning tonight.
Oh, they had
Look
to.
at these two guys. They're just pouring charisma out of their cups. Their cup runneth over with their own charisma, their red solo cups. And they're dancing, and they got the fucking cheerleaders, and I'm thinking, tonight's the night. And then they fucking beat them clean, and I was gobsmacked at that finish.
I don't understand it.
And the ref wasn't really, and the match wasn't even much either. And by the way, another thing, you guys don't watch SmackDown. You know the angle they did on SmackDown to set this up? They had a brawl between the two teams, and Jeff Jarrett got knocked on his ass. That's the fucking go home. The whole reason this guy's here is because you want a referee that's going to make sure that no shit goes down. So your go home angle is you beat his ass and he gets knocked out? Not everything is perfect.
What a
with
strange
this new
company.
regime.
What a strange company this is. All right. On that note, they had booked Riddle versus Rollins for the show. Then they did an injury angle for Riddle to take him off the show. Then Riddle shows up anyway, charges the ring, demands Rollins come out. Michael Cole says Rollins isn't even here. Rollins' music plays. He comes out. They try to separate them, but they fail. Seth Rollins lays waste to Riddle like a complete geek.
Yeah, he did. Cool.
All right, great.
Hey,
Whatever.
they got on the show. Thank God they had that tweet thing with Triple H where Seth cried about not being on SummerSlam. After working so hard for the last 7 months, Triple H goes, I hear ya. Apparently didn't hear him well enough.
I suppose.
This outfit that Seth Rollins is wearing, my goodness.
Oh, hang on. Who made this? Talk about it. Describe it, Craig.
If you ever seen Mark Bolan from T-Rex, he would wear something like this. It was a orange. It started very orange at the top, and it got less orange as it got to the pants. And then there was like a built-in scarf, I guess. My goodness, it was something straight out of the 70s.
It was, in fact, as Chris Zellner described it, he looks like the set of Match Game 74.
Okay.
Which is
there you go.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Next, our semi-main, Liv Morgan versus Ronda Rousey. I will summarize this match in like 10 seconds. Ronda tore her limb from limb, embarrassed her, humiliated her, showed she had no business hanging in the ring with her, tapped her out, but because Ronda's shoulders were down as Liv was tapping, Liv wins. I guess they're going to do a rematch, which I can't possibly imagine anyone caring about at this point.
Well, they put that title on Liv, and I don't know what the plan was when they put it on her, but I wouldn't be surprised if the plan was she would just lose it back to Ronda at SummerSlam.
That's what I was guessing.
But she was so over, and the people were so into her that even I was like, they got to change it. She's got to keep the title here for a little while. And this is what they came up with, which was, well, another. Where was Jeff Jarrett, by the way? We needed him refereeing this match. So yeah, she had the and Ronda just dominated the entire match, submitted her, but got pinned doing so. And then Ronda beats up her, which is a heel move. But then she beats up the referee, which is a babyface move. So I don't know if she's turned heel or not, but if the big match at WrestleMania is Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch, then Ronda should be the heel and Becky should be the babyface. So you may as well just get it over with.
But even then, the announcers are pointing out that Liv did tap first. Ronda was screwed.
Well, they'll surely do a rematch.
I guess. Yeah. So I heard rumors that one of the reasons this match was so strange is that they were cut short due to time.
Yes.
That's what I imagined.
So I didn't time the whole thing, but from the time the bell rang to end their match till the time the bell rang to start the main event, 20-plus minutes passed by.
Well, a few things, Vinny. First off, I was told that the Logan Paul Miz match went long, so things had to be cut, and this was one of those things. And yes, there was so much extraneous bullshit on this show. But if you watch the show carefully, they finish segments at certain times. So, they finished this at exactly 7:30 Pacific. And then they were going to start the main event at exactly 8. So that meant they had a half hour to fill with whatever. Why they do that? That's how they time out the show. So the other thing is that Brock and Roman, it's Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, and they don't get their time cut. So that's what happened. They got all the time to do everything that they wanted to do. Well, they cut Liv Morgan, Ronda Rousey, probably the Street Profits and Usos, and probably some others as well.
So eventually, long into the night, Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar began.
Yeah, we had Kane out there bullshitting the attendance as a politician. Got to mention that. That's very important to get that on TV.
Yeah. Roman Reigns takes an hour to get to the ring. Brock Lesnar then, as I noted earlier, found a tractor, drove the tractor to ringside. Your tractors are useful tools, Good for moving things around, including wrestling rings, we later found out. But very, very handy. You know what they're not noted for? Speed! This thing's inching to the ring. We're well past the 3-hour mark in this show. I'm bored out of my skull. The last hour plus of this show has sucked. I watched this tractor. A tractor. He could have plowed a damn field in the time it took him to get to this ring.
The funny thing was this tractor had Brock's logo on it, so I envisioned that he drove it there.
Oh, Christ. No way. No. There's no way this tractor could have driven from Saskatchewan to Tennessee in the year 2022. There's not a chance.
I should mention, by the way, that he still got that tractor to the ring faster than Roman walked.
That's fair.
So, eventually the match began. All right. I will just ask this first question. Am I the only one who didn't like this?
I think so.
Okay. That's fair. Listen,
I enjoyed it for what it was.
It was obviously a spectacle. And if you just want to see a big, giant spectacle, and that made you happy, I'm happy for you. I'm willing to admit that my view is contrarian. I'm in the minority, and that doesn't mean you have to agree with me. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to try to ruin your night. I just want you to enjoy the main event as you enjoyed it. I can just give you my opinion of why I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed some other match.
But you know why, Vinny? If they would have started this match an hour earlier, you would have really liked it.
It would have helped.
The last hour of this show dragged. It fucking dragged, and it was hot up in that loft, and we're just wanting this fucking thing to get on the road, and they just kept stalling and stalling and stalling and stalling, and by the time the match started, it was like, fuck, dude. So, it's just, if this would have been the main event of a New Japan show, an AEW show, any fucking show that doesn't have 40 minutes of dead time prior to this match, you would have liked it.
So it's all about the tractor. They're hitting each other with things. They're doing suplexes on the floor. They're doing F5s on the floor or whatever. They're throwing each other in steel. They're beating the hell out of each other. That's obvious. They are beating the hell out of each other. And every once in a while, Brock leaves the match to go fuck with the tractor some more. It's too far away. It's too close. The lift is too high. The lift is too low. So the fucking tractor finally gets involved. Here is the spot. Roman's helpless, right? He can't stand here in this last man standing match. But Brock takes him over. He puts him in the scoop thingy of the tractor, and he gets in the tractor, and this, of course, takes some time. And he raises Roman up in the tractor, and this, again, tractors, not speedy vehicles. This takes some time to lift Roman up there, and he inches the tractor back close to the ring. So now the scoop part is over the ring, and then he goes to dump Roman out of the scoop into the ring there. And I'm looking at this like, okay, this is going to be. If he falls from here, this would be like taking a superplex or giving it a superplex. It's a big bump. Okay. Mm-hmm. And Roman just rolls out of the scoop and lands on his feet and slumps to the floor. I'm like,
well,
that's it.
It was way up in the air, but as the thing lowered, the more that it lowered to dump him out, the closer he got to the mat. So he only fell 3 feet.
Yes.
And to their credit, they had a guy that may have been laying on his back down on the ground. He's shooting straight up like this to try to make it look like he fell really far. But that was
okay. So this loader actually moves on a hinge, and then there's the arm. So he could have just dumped Roman out at the 14-foot mark or whatever.
Yeah, let's not do that with Roman Reigns. Let's not drop him from 14 fucking feet.
But it was obvious that Brock lowered the arm down and then dumped the loader.
That's the problem. It looked like he was trying to set him down gently.
Correct.
That's not good. It's not good if you're doing that with a power slam. It's not good if you're dropping a guy out of a tractor. So, let's see, what else? Brock Lesnar choked Roman Reigns unconscious with a guillotine, yet did not win the last man standing match. Don't ask me how that's what happened.
That happened.
Brock used
the dude was unconscious. He's dead. He could have been killed, and the referee was still going to count to 10.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Yes. And so Brock goes to the tractor again. He lifts up a corner of the ring. This is all anyone is going to remember from this in 20 years is this ring, the corner of the ring being lifted up. And I don't know. I can't imagine they actually practiced this. They must have lifted the ring just to make sure the ring wouldn't snap in two. But Roman did a great job of waiting for as long as he could. He stood in the ring before stumbling backwards and rolling onto the floor. And then they just left it up for another 15 minutes, so that half of the ringside area couldn't see anything, because they're all doing the stuff on the other side of the ring. You couldn't do anything in the ring. It's up in the air now. They did a bunch of stuff. The Usos run out. There's tons of interference. Eventually, Paul Heyman goes to the table. All the bodies are down. Austin Theory runs down, teases a cash-in, but Brock kicks his ass.
They fucked this up. They fucked it up. All they had to do was wait until they were both down. Then Theory comes out to cash in because he wants to win while they're both down. It's last man standing. So he should come out at 8. Cash in, stand there for 2 seconds and become the new champion. But of course they didn't want to make him the champion. But still, he should have come out when both of them were down. Instead he came out when Roman was down. And he's trying to give the thing to the referee and Brock just comes up and goes, ba-bam! And kills the guy.
Yeah, that was the end of him.
That was the whole Austin Theory spot after all those weeks.
Yeah. So Brock is still fighting 3-on-1, and Roman keeps spearing him and pummeling with his briefcase and hitting with a belt, and Brock won't stay down. And finally he hits a second belt shot with his second belt, in fact. And then they begin to pile furniture and tables and chairs, whatever else they can find, pile it on top of Brock's body. Michael Cole was so awesomely melodramatic. For the love of God, count faster! Brock can't breathe, he's screaming. And the Usos all climb on top. So at the end, they pinned Brock anyway in this last man standing match. And the ref counted to 10, and Roman retained. There you go. My one word to describe this match was silly.
Well, it was silly. It was wacky. But you know what? It was fun. And I mentioned this with Dave. When AEW advertises a barbed wire match, what do you get? Barbed wire, puncture wounds, blood, violence, the spider, whatever they call them. You know, if they advertised ring surrounded by fire match, there'd be fire everywhere. Dude would get burned. So, I like that WWE did a last man standing match, and they didn't half-ass it. They delivered a last man standing match, and they pulled out all the gimmicks. And, these fans, they like fucking tractors and people jumping off shit and the ring getting tipped and all that sort of stuff. So I thought by the end it was a big success. I hope Roman Reigns isn't hurt because fucking Brock's just throwing this poor fucker everywhere. Paul Heyman, they build this as the last ever match between these two guys. And of course I don't buy it for a second. But Vince is gone. And so this actually might be their last ever match. And I think that Paul thinks it's their last ever match. And that's why he took an F5 through a table. Because there's no other reason for Paul Heyman to take an F5 through a table. So I thought everybody was good. I thought it was a fun match. And at the end of the day, they delivered. They delivered what was promised. So good for them.
On top of the ultra-violence in this match, Paul Heyman, after taking the F5 and especially during the celebration up the walkway, as both Usos are holding him, Paul Heyman is selling this beating that he took, and it is so comical. And my son and I are just laughing at Paul Heyman. He's so great. I know this is a news flash, but
yes,
he is so fantastic.
So there you go, everyone. That was SummerSlam. I don't know. I guess it's a thumbs in the middle show. If you like the main event, it's a thumbs up show. That's for sure.
I would say that this was, I would say if you had 2 hands, I would give it 1 thumb up. I thought they had a very good opener. I thought they